It's the middle of the night, and every one of these cars is running. No one is inside them. No one is going anywhere. They've been idling for hours, some of them for days. Because here, there's an unwritten rule. From October to April, you don't turn your engine off. Not to save time, not out of habit, but because at 50 below zero, if you switch a cold engine off, you might not get it started again. This is what it takes to keep a car alive in the coldest city on Earth. This is Yakutsk, the capital of Yakutia in the Russian Far East. Around 350,000 people live here, on ground that stays frozen all year round. It's the coldest city on the planet. And a few hundred miles away sits a village called Oymyakon, the coldest permanently inhabited place ever recorded. One thing before we go further, this isn't all of Russia. Moscow doesn't freeze like this. This is one region, bigger than India, where winter routinely drops to -50. And the question is simple. How do you live an ordinary life with an ordinary car when the cold is this extreme? To understand the cars, you have to understand the cold. At -50, the air itself feels solid. Breath freezes instantly. Metal turns brittle. Spit crackles before it lands. Winter here isn't a season you wait out over a weekend. It's half the year, from October into April. Oymyakon has recorded temperatures down to nearly -68. At that point, the everyday machines we never think about, the ones parked outside your window, simply stop cooperating. Starting with the car. There are 3 reasons a car won't start in serious cold. First, the battery. Cold slows the chemistry inside it to a crawl. Around -18, a battery loses most of its punch, and there's just not enough power left to turn the engine over. Second, the oil. It doesn't freeze solid. It thickens into a gel. Cold enough, and it's like trying to stir cold honey. The starter can't spin the engine through it. And third, even the starter's own grease stiffens up. Battery, oil, starter, all fighting you at once. So people in Yakutia have spent generations building an answer. Not one trick, a whole toolkit. One thing to be clear about before we go further, what follows isn't a how-to. It's a set of habits that grew up in one of the harshest climates on Earth, a local answer to a local problem. And the first habit is the strangest of all. In the coldest months, many people here simply don't switch the engine off. The car runs while they're at work. It runs while they sleep. Some engines stay on, more or less, from autumn until spring. Yes, it burns fuel. But fuel is cheaper than a dead engine at -50. And out on the long roads between towns, that math turns serious. Some remote filling stations never close, because stopping just isn't an option. Then there's the car, quietly rebuilt for the cold. Look closely at the windshield, and you might find 2 panes instead of 1. A second sheet of glass fitted over the first, trapping a layer of air so the inside doesn't ice over as you drive. Under the hood, a padded blanket holds the engine's heat. A mat over the radiator stops the freezing air from cooling the engine faster than it can warm itself. Small, homemade fixes, and they matter. Wherever there's an electric socket, the car gets plugged in. A block heater, an element seated inside the engine, runs off household power and keeps the oil and coolant warm enough to start. Some fit a small preheater that wakes the engine before dawn. Others set the car to start itself every couple of hours through the night. It's the same trick used across the cold north, just pushed to a colder extreme. And then the part that surprises outsiders most. When the temperature really drops, people take the battery out of the car and carry it inside for the night. It sits by the door on a slow charger, staying warm while the car sleeps in the cold. In the morning it goes back in, with just enough life left to turn the engine over. A car you partly bring indoors with you. Those who can, keep the car in a heated box. But there's no underground parking here. The permafrost won't allow it. So a warm garage is a luxury, not the rule. And plenty of people don't fight the cold at all. They pull the battery, cover the car, and simply leave it until spring, taking the bus through the worst of winter and bringing the car back to life when the thaw comes. Because keeping a car alive at 50 below isn't one clever trick. It's a whole routine, argued over, handed down, worked out across generations. So far we've talked about petrol engines. Diesel has its own problem, and it's worse. In deep cold, ordinary diesel starts to gel. Wax crystals form and clog the fuel filter, and the fuel simply stops flowing. So up here they run a special winter blend, Arctic diesel, designed to stay liquid down to around -40 and below. Drivers add a heater to the fuel filter, and once the engine's running, warm fuel circulates back to the tank and helps keep the rest from freezing. Petrol, diesel, oil, battery, every fluid in the car has to be managed against the cold. Nothing here takes care of itself. And all of this has a cost, in money and in time. Fuel burned through a running engine, night after night. Block heaters drawing power till spring. A morning routine that starts long before you actually go anywhere. Life here quietly reorganizes itself around the machine. You think about the cold before you think about the trip. And plenty of people decide it isn't worth it. They park the car for the winter and take the bus, and there's no shame in that. It's just another sensible answer to an impossible temperature. None of this is heroic. It's ordinary, the ordinary competence of people who've simply always lived here. And if this all sounds impossibly foreign, it isn't really. Drive through a Canadian prairie winter, and you'll find parking lots lined with electrical posts, cars plugged in against the cold. In northern Scandinavia, block heaters are simply standard. In Fairbanks, Alaska, they're everywhere. The same cord, the same idea. Keep the engine warm enough to wake up. The difference isn't the trick. It's the temperature. Yakutia just runs the same playbook at a scale the rest of the cold world rarely has to imagine. -50 for half the year. So we come back to where we started. A car, running in the dark, going nowhere. It looks strange until you understand it. Then it looks like something else entirely. Patience and know-how, and a quiet refusal to let the cold win. That's how you keep a car alive in the coldest city on Earth.